Good morning. I am out in the garden looking at some of the wild plants that I have discovered this year, and I want to share some with you. Um, right here I have what's called wild lettuce, and it's one of my favorite plants even though oops, it's one of my favorite plants even though it's not a very attractive plant, but it's very good. I'm getting older, so I have aches and pains. We all get those when we get older. And this plant is very good at relieving that. It's one of its names is called uh, opium lettuce. So you get the idea. Uh, here, I'm going to turn the camera around and show you the wild lettuce. Okay, this here is a wild lettuce. This is my biggest one. It's branching out. And what you do is you cut the plant down at the bottom. Actually, you leave it up a foot and it'll keep growing. And you immediately turn it upside down because it has a white sap inside it. And in fact, I can break off. You see that white sap? That white sap is what kills the pain. It also works as a sleep aid. So if you take it just before bedtime, it will kill any pain that you have. It'll give you kind of a calm feeling, and in that way, it helps you to sleep. And the way to identify this plant is these very sharp hairs on the back. They won't hurt you, but they're very stiff. And this is the front or the top of the leaf. This one started branching out. It's got all these branches now. It looks like kind of like a tree, shaped like a Christmas tree. But there's many different ways of preparing this. What some people do is they wash it really good and then chop it up. Chop it up. You put it in a jar and pour alcohol over top. Most people use vodka, and that turns it into a tincture. You use like a dropper full. You take it orally, and it kills the pain. For me, it's worked like 15 minutes. The pain's gone. But I take a capsule. That's another way you could do it. You could dry these leaves and put it in a grinder and make a powder, and then put it in capsules, and it will work the same way. But I have two here, and on the side of my driveway over here is another one. This one grew really fast. Let's get it right here. And like I said, you can tell that it is wild lettuce by these stiff hairs. They won't hurt you. It's a very bitter plant, so if you decided to eat it, it won't taste very good. And here's another plant, since we're here. This plant here is called nipplewort. Nipplewort, it gets its name because, I'll show you. See those little buds right there? Let's say they look like nipples. And the other thing is, this was used as a salve for lactating mothers to soothe, the their nipples when nursing. That's how it got its name. Going back here, found another wild plant. This one I call, actually others call it lemon balm. And it's a very calming plant. Just to sit around it and just take in its aroma, it really calms you. But you pick the leaves and you dry them, or you can use them fresh. You can take the leaves right off the plant and toss them in your cup and pour hot water over it. It will immediately start putting that lemon aroma around the room. And but you have to use more because it's fresh. You can just clip off the tops and toss them in a cup. But I've been drying it all summer so far. Actually, all spring. I haven't dried any since now it's summer. But moving on. This is just an intro video on stuff I have growing. And right here, this is a brand new poppy. Oh, why did my screen go black? This is not the opium type poppy. It is California poppy. And I come out here every day and I discover new plants. This is this is wild carrot. It's not as good as the regular carrot, but this is the original carrot. The eats is been modified and made to taste better. But the wild foods are better for you. You get used to the taste too. So, and over here is another plant that I've been, trying to transplant. This is a transplant. I made this little tag for it. This is a mallow plant. It is related to the hibiscus. It can be used. I think you can use the flower for tea, but the leaves are edible. It's people have sautéed these leaves, and everybody says it tastes really good. I have one back here. This is planted by seed. This was a transplant. You can see here the dead material. It died back. It almost died completely. It does not transplant well, but looks like it decided to come back. And over here is another mallow. They got beautiful flowers, hibiscus type flowers. They're much smaller than what you would consider hibiscus. But this one was transplanted from another spot in the garden. This is called ribwort plantain. You can look, it's got these ribs in it. This is a medicinal plant. You chew it up and you put it on a cut or scrape, and it helps the blood to stop flowing and helps it to clot. And here, this one's kind of a fun plant. This is called pineapple weed. It is a echinacea. Oh no, excuse me. Take that back. It is chamomile. Most chamomile, you'll see petals. Well, the petals are there. You see a little white ring on the flowers. some of the flowers anyway. And the flower, but that's it. That is complete flower. And it doesn't transplant too well either. It prefers that kind of soil. But I put it in the dirt and I put some rocks around it. Got one over here. And next to it is a plantain, just like the first one. And here's some more poppies. Poppies are very easy to grow. You just let them grow. And I went to my father's house and got me this plant. When it was about that high. This leaf was chewed up at his house, but since then, they're perfect, aren't they? It's just gorgeous. And this is the second year. This is a 2-year, it's a biennial plant. The first year, it doesn't produce flowers. It just produces a rosette around the base, similar to a dandelion. But this plant is very good for clearing up lung problems. I had COVID in January. I had a persistent cough for 2 months after that. And maybe it was December I had COVID, but the cough stuck around, and it was very annoying. Bothered me a lot. But this is a mullein plant, and in my church group, we study the words of Almighty God, and He tells us to use what He has provided. He provided this for us to help with our lungs. There are different ways to use it. You can make it tincture and an alcohol, or you can dry the leaves, make a powder, and well, not powder. Just dry the leaves and you grind them up like you do with tea. And you can either smoke it, believe it or not. Smoking it helps clear your lungs. And you can also use it in the form of tea. Well, I use the tea form, and the whole plant is usable. The leaves, you can dry them, smoke it, or you can make a tea with it. And the flowers, believe it or not, these in a survival situation where you're trying to get back to civilization and you need to eat, you can use the seeds right there. Those are flowers right now, but that whole thing turns into seeds. And you can take those seeds and you get millions of seeds. Toss them in a lake or a pond, and the fish will float to the top. It won't kill them, but they will float to the top because they're stunned. Now, only use that as a survival tool. Because if you use it for fishing, it is highly illegal. So only use it as a last resort. Got to play fair. And the Indians have used this for clearing their lungs and for fishing. And I have another plant that's also good for your lungs. I thought I was getting a smaller one of that, but it turns out this plant here, because the leaves never changed, so I figured out it must be something different. So I used my Picture This app, and it told me this was common cudweed. Now, it's funny. I put common cudweed in chat, and Meta hides it sexual or something. But cud is what cows chew on. That's why they like this plant. They chew on this. It helps um, your blood clot when you need it. It's also an antiseptic, astringent. Um, and you can, the Indians used it to clear their lungs, similar to this. It's the other name for this plant is rabbit tobacco. As you can see, the leaves look like rabbit ears. And they're very, very soft. Much softer than this guy, but this is really soft too. Oh, another cool thing, you can use the mullein leaf. You can see how big it is. I picked some that were much bigger than that. And it can be used as an insole in your shoes. You take the leaf, put it inside your shoe, like you normally would do an insole, and you walk on that all day long. And when you pull this out, it's black. It pulls the toxin out of your body through your feet. The Japanese have done that for centuries, but not with mullein. They have other stuff that they use. You know, every place God has put stuff for us to use. And every ailment that you can think of, God has put something on this earth for us to use. And here's my beautiful poppy. Just sees flowers every day. And the flowers close at night, see? They're closed. They're just waking up. Some of them are starting to open. I love it. It's beautiful. And this is very useful plant. You can eat those flowers and they will help with your cough, with phlegm. It just clears out the crap. I watched somebody make tobacco out of not tobacco. He dried the leaves that he found in the snow. If you remember where the plant is, you dig it up and you can use some of the leaves. He says, don't use all of them, because if you do, the plant's dead. It never comes back. You leave some of the leaves. Just use what you need. And he smoked it. He had a persistent cough and he wanted to get rid of it, and he smoked it. Hello, welcome to the chat. You can speak if you want. You can come up on screen if you like. And moving on, I got onions planted here. Here's a baby mullein. I found it in the front of my house where I pulled one out. And here is another planting. See the flowers? It doesn't have beautiful flowers. It just has these stalks going up like this. No petals or no bright colors, but the plant is beautiful. I love this plant. I want to check out these poppy pods. After the petals fall off, this is where the, whoops, get out of the way. This is where the flower was, down here by my thumb. After the bees pollinate, and they're all over this plant all day long. It puts out these pods. And when the pods are dry, you can pick them off and you can save the seed. Moving on, I found this plant in picture of this said this was a snapdragon. So far, no flowers. But you find plants crazy places. Look here. Wild lettuce. This is the latest one I found. I don't know if you can see. It's got the stiff hairs on the back. And here's another wild carrot. Now, these are biennial, so apparently this is second year because there's a flower coming up. And I found lots of plants at my father's house by foraging. And that brings up the next one. This plant is called lamb's quarter. Right here. This can be eaten. It's got a little silvery color on the bottom of the leaf. Those are the best leaves to eat. It's like spinach. So I dug this up at my father's house and it's had to adjust. It takes a while. And, you know, look around when you start your garden every year. You might find something you didn't plant. In fact, I guarantee you will. So these pop up. This is related to the amaranth. It puts up a big, beautiful flower stalk. And it smells wonderful. And when the produces the seeds, you harvest those seeds and you can grind the seeds into flour just like you would with wheat. It's not a grain, but it works just like a grain. This is called an ancient grain. It's all over the world. Something been eaten on that already. But you can eat the leaves. They're like spinach. They have the same vitamins that you would get from spinach and minerals, and I believe has omega-3s in it. But these guys, they do not like hot days. So you want to give them maybe a little shade. But luckily, so far, all I had to do was give it water. But what I said earlier about finding something in your garden that you did not plant, most people call weeds. Well, check what they are first. Because I found this. I thought it was sunflowers, but my app told me it was a tomato plant. And once it started putting on these newer leaves, it's like, that's not a tomato plant. It started telling me that it was a sunflower. Keep going, and now it says it's a tomatillo, which makes sense. There's a flower right there about to open, and it's not like a sunflower. And it's a tomatillo. I passed up something. I forgot. Oh, here. This here. If you can see these leaves down here. The leaves taste a little bit like mustard. This is called a watercress. Early yellow rocket watercress. And it produces these pods. Oh, that one broke off. Here's a pod. From a tiny flower with 4 petals. It produces this. And when these turn dry, brittle, you rub it between your fingers and they pop open. And you can use the seeds like mustard. And here's going over to one that's got flowers on it. Yeah, it's early morning. You can see the shadow. There's the flowers. Those little flowers turn into those big pods. And the leaves are edible. They taste like mustard. And here's another plant that I transplanted. This is called yarrow. You use the yarrow with the plantain on cuts, and it will help it heal. See? You can see the flower there. Go down and see the pods. That's the mustard water. I call mustard watercress, but it's yellow rocket. And here's another mallow that I don't always take off. Looks like they're dying. And this is more of that lemon balm. Those solar panels are on them. I'm moving those. This, I bought this rosemary. You can forage for it too. It grows wild. But you rub your hands up like this and then smell it. Oh, it's wonderful. Volunteer tomato plants popped up in here. That's why I always look to see what's growing. But here I put some seed. These are not a fast plant to grow. This is called rosemary. It's very good for adding to shampoos. You make the oil and you add it to shampoos, and it helps make your hair thicker. It helps clear the pores so your hair can grow. You can use it in several ways. There's lots of ways to use it. Wow, it's building a mound. Oh, I've got ants in there. That's not good. And they're covering my rosemary. Dang ants. That ought to piss them off. That's fun in the garden. A mess. And here's some more lemon balm. Stuff grows everywhere. If you don't want it everywhere, keep it in a pot. Moving on. And here is a wild carrot that has really taken off. This is the second year carrot called Queen Anne's Lace. And even plants like this is thistle, sow thistle. It's called sow thistle because it's found around pigs. See, my garden has gone wild this year, and I've learned a lot about it. This is that spinach plant. And over here, I planted about 10 years ago some Swiss chard. And it keeps coming back. Every year, more Swiss chard. Carrot. I can't seem to find any of these carrots that are not blooming. It's like they start during second year. Oh, right now it smells so wonderful in here. These are going to seed. And it's got a beautiful smell. And some plants that came up out of nowhere. Like I said, you got to check to see what's growing. Right here, if you can see it, this is called amaranth. This is another ancient grain. It's not a real grain. I got it growing all over the place here. there. And a few tomatoes coming up. I had cherry tomatoes over in this area and Cherokee purples. The cherry tomatoes will only go 2 years because they're hybrid. There's a tomato right there. And I think these are beets because I planted beets in here last year. I know, they look like the Swiss chard. Same type of plant. You can eat those leaves as well. But yesterday, I thought I was pulling some grass out. It turned out it was corn. And there's a little one there. Huh. This is amaranth. This is a common amaranth. It's not a beautiful amaranth, but it does have these huge stalks of flowers. Yeah, this one, in my opinion, is beautiful as well. It's really growing fast. This, just last week, was that size. Right there. It was that big last week. And look at it now. And there's some more tomatoes. But I was pulling grass out and I found this. It's corn. I don't know where it came from, but there's corn. There's another one right there. See it? Right there. Middle of the screen. Corn. But I pulled one out and it had a kernel of corn on it. So it's like, oops. Where did he come from? This is a wild carrot flower. This is the biggest telltale sign that this is a wild carrot or Queen Anne's lace. It has this beautiful platform of flowers. It just comes up. It's got kind of a hairy stem and this big beautiful flower, and that right there in the middle is either dark purple or black at times. And I bought some amaranth plants, seeds that are very decorative, and I put it on the tag here. It says, love lies bleeding. And what it does, it drapes. It's beautiful. This is in my potato patch. This is a tower I built out of fence material, garden fence, and I put this cloth over it. It's a burlap cloth, and it holds the dirt in, and I got potatoes coming up the sides and in the top. Well, I have got other stuff to do. I got tomatoes growing on a rain gutter here, and onions, and purslane. That's a very good plant I will talk about in the next video. But that's it for now. Hope you enjoyed the garden. I will go into more detail as I learn.